Hi, lovely beings, and welcome to a Galactic Mayan astrology report. So, I'm recording this video on the 1st of February, which is Imbolc, and tomorrow, on the 2nd of February, another 13-day process begins in Galactic Mayan astrology. And the process that we're going into within the Mayan magic matrix is one of the two most powerful 13-day processes of the entire spin. But first, I just want to speak into Imbolc a little bit. So, in the part of the world that I'm living in and from, we're beginning to come. Well, we're at this point between winter solstice and spring equinox. So it's like the middle moment as we kind of come out of the deep death and the deep sleep of the winter and move into spring. So it's this time of year where we're beginning to feel things starting to stir. And I think, what I'm really feeling, particularly because this is my first year of fully tuning into the Celtic Wheel of the Year. And it's not been that many years that I've actually been in this part of the world for the winter. I always left. It's like, now this is the time to get out and go to the sun. I'm really seeing, the power of the initiation of the winter, not just in terms of the sleeping, but the dying. And it's hard because, with the modern world as it is, we don't give the space for things to slow and for reality to become internal. And I think that's really what this winter does if we allow it, or what it can provide. It's like everything from the external is dying away, everything's getting dark, and what that cultivates, what that invites, is this like internal space and time. And that's the thing, like I say, that's tricky because like the modern world doesn't allow space for that. But if we can claim it, if we can craft it, what we get to experience is phenomenal. Oh, ooh. So yeah, this place of Imbolc, this moment of Imbolc, if you're anywhere near West Yorkshire, on Saturday the 3rd, I think it is, we're hosting so we started doing through Totofutures, me and Taco, every point on the Wheel of the Year, we're doing like a gathering on the land. And for Imbolc, we are gathering Saturday in Ilkley Moors. It's a free gathering. So I'll pop a link for that below if you want to join us. But it's this, it's guided by the goddess Bridget, and Bridget is like a fire goddess. And I really feel that, and this kind of links into the Wavespell as well. My initiation, I guess, through this winter period has been like, the finding and claiming and utilizing the fire. And I think there's something within the feminine that, is really looking for that fire. It's like historically the masculine energy through anger has been, permitted to hold the fire. But actually, when that fire and passion is coming through the feminine, the Kali energy, there's something about the sort of sacredness of the fire and the rage that can be birthed. And I think as a collective, we really struggle with that like feminine fire expression. We struggle with the fire expression full stop, but I can really feel, because there's such a mother energy, I think, within feminine fire. There's such a like deep devotional love in whatever direction that comes through that fire. It's like a protector energy, protecting the land, protecting the people, protecting the children. And so at this moment, at this sort of threshold, it's like, we're really being invited to kind of hold this this fire, you know, it's like the fire within that's been cultivated through all the transformation, and the fire, you know, that we can like, yeah, it's like keep that fire in the center and we're good to go. So on the 2nd of February, which is the day after I'm posting this, we start the 13-day process of the red serpent. So like I say, the serpent is like one of the 2 most powerful Wavespell processes, and the reason that it is because throughout the galactic Mayan calendar, throughout the matrix, we have these like portal days. And if you were to look at the grid itself, you know, the calendar itself, they're like green squares. Like the other colors of squares are like correlated to the archetypal colors. So we've got red, we've got yellow, we've got white, we've got blue, not in that order. But then we have these green squares, and when you actually look at the calendar, they actually make up the shape of a DNA helix. And that's what these portal days are about. You know, they are days of evolutionary potential. Like being a human in this matrix is every day is a day for, yeah, evolution. And I think particularly at this time on the planet. But there's something within the portal days that like, it's like the capacity for transformation is stronger, and like the veil between the world is thinner, and you know the ability to connect and to communicate through all the layers of our being is easier, and so it's powerful basically. And you know, the red serpent wave spell and then the yellow seed wave spell that comes a little while afterwards has got like 10 of these days back to back, which we don't have in any other wave spell, like I say, other than the yellow seed. So it's like a really powerful power activation time, but particularly because it's within the energy of the red serpent, and the red serpent, you know, is a red sign, which is about activation anyway. But the red serpent itself is like, it's all about power, you know, and as with all the archetypes, you know, we've got like the lower octave of its expression and the higher octave of its expression. And, you know, through journey in the lower octave, we reach the higher octave. And, you know, the lower octave of the red serpent is about survival. And it's like the imprint of, yeah, like where we learned to fear reality, where we were conditioned to not exist in trust. And, you know, if we look at all of the other creatures on the planet, they naturally exist within trust. It's like, you know, there isn't this fear of, they're not living fearfully, they're living in the moment, they're living in presence. And, you know, they know that what they need is going to be provided. And yeah, they might have to, you know, work for that. But the baseline, you know, isn't that reality is screwed. And because we are embodying this creator consciousness, because we're in the human vessel and we have the ability to create worlds, you know, if the human is not feeling trust, if the human is not feeling in alignment with abundance, you know, and abundance gets thrown around like confetti. And I think a lot of language pisses me off. You know, it's like, I notice it sometimes in terms of like calling in energies, or, you know, it's like whenever there's this kind of repetitive pattern of spoken word, or whenever there's a word that gets like thrown around, it's like its meaning gets completely disconnected from. And it's like, you know, yeah, the word abundance, I feel, really reflects that. It's like, oh, abundance, you know what? It's like it doesn't have any like deep meaning like it used to. And the energy of abundance, you know, is so it, you know, it's like it's the nectar frequency of reality, it's love. And you know, that's where we're meant to be existing. And I had this like really profound insight this morning when I was journaling. I had some cacao, and it's just like, yeah, feeling into like my Imbolc intentions. And the thing that came, so I don't know if you know, but I draw a lot. I spend a lot of my time drawing, and when I'm drawing, it's like, yeah, just random things that kind of come through. But it's never random things. Like there's always like basically a message from spirit, and the way that it expresses itself, and like it kind of all comes out, and then afterwards when I look at it, it's like, oh wow. And one of the things that I've drawn for a long time are roads. So like roads in terms of like having, they kind of come out through the doodle, and it's like a road that's got the little, the separation of the lanes in the center. And I can really feel, well, I'll share the insight first and then contextualize it. But all of a sudden, in today's expression, it started as it would do previously with the road, and then there were like loads more lines that came, and then, which very rarely often, words came with it. And the words were, it was never a road, it was always a river. And just the level of that, the way that that landed within me, in terms of the creation of roads, and again, there's all this stuff about like the imprint of the Roman civilization, and Gregorian calendar is a huge part of that. But just what we did in terms of like disconnecting from nature, and like the building of these, stone roads, that meant that, that masculine energy could continue to blossom whilst the feminine got squashed. But the real huge insight, of how I've been living, in terms of how I've been trying to create within this dimension of late, which is now coming to a death, which I'm really, again, lots of unraveling to share from that. But that whole like, I'm going to build a road, I'm going to build a path, I'm going to create through laying these things down, as opposed to I'm going to flow into abundance. Like I'm moving through this reality as it's water. I'm going to, like flow with the synchronistic, energetic, and allow myself to be carried on my back into the situations and life manifestations through having pure frequency. Is such a like opposition to, the way that we've been guided to live. And this is, where it comes into the red serpent. It's like when we've been conditioned to live in fear, the way that we overcome the fear is through this like striving, trying. It's like, oh, so push. Whereas when it's reality is a river, we're not pushing, we're just being. And then the manifestation that comes through the being, like the higher octave of the serpent, like the power, because the serpent is fire, the serpent is power, it's kundalini activation. And there's this, there's philosophies around the world that really bring us into this insight of, the serpent that's coiled around the base of the spine, like laying dormant, that eventually through the activation of the chakras will like bite the pineal gland and bring the human into, actualization. So this serpent energy is the potential of, activated human. But I feel that the interesting thing as we like transform these blocks, because if we've got stories, and this is one of the coaching programs that I used to offer that may one day come back, it was about working with the energy held within each of the chakras. Because sometimes I think, when we like look at, okay, here are the things that are in my way, we're not really connecting to the chakras. And the chakra system in the body is such a phenomenal map for all of the different pieces and parts of reality and our beingness. So, with the root chakra and then the sacral chakra, and then, it's like all of the different vibrations that emanate through each one of the chakras. But as this kundalini energy, as this snake like fire hits each one of the chakras and transforms, if we allow it to transform, as if we go through the deaths, if we go through the burning, we then land back into the womb of creation, the womb of reality. Our initial experience of reality was in water, and it's this really phenomenal piece that feels to be landing within my understanding now of like, okay, so everything's still water, we're still held within the womb of creation. and how we, if we allow ourselves to navigate this realm through water, we're automatically, because if you think of like the three states of water, we've got the ice, which is the solid, which is, so we need to chip away, we need to fight, we need to, whereas when we're in the water, we're flowing, we're navigating, following a current. And then the spiritual dimension of, we're not in physical form anymore. But if we can lift the dimension from ice to water, which I feel is what we're being asked to do at this time, at this moment of existence, it's like the frequency became very heavy and very solidified, and like the reality, particularly on the land that I'm living within, within these like hell mouths of the world, the the West, the fixation, the level of like, this is the way that reality looks and this is how it operates and that's what it is. It's like so solid. It's so solid, and the collective expectation and therefore creation of how we navigate through that and what's possible within that is so limited and fixed. But what's being invited now, and I had a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, when I was like really starting to open to this death process that I've been in, I was like connecting with this wonderful, beautiful tree, and she had like ivy growing up her, and I know that there's lots of stuff about ivy smothering and all the rest of it, but that wasn't the insight that was wanting to be received at that moment. It was about like how, as opposed to like chopping down the old ways, as opposed to, I'm going to say the old ways, I mean what's happening presently, not the ancient ways, as opposed to chopping down the matrix, it's like, how do we become the ivy? How do we grow around it? And then from that space, it's like it collapses. And I really feel that it's how, it's our frequency within this realm. It's our way of operating through this reality. And this is, the red serpent energy is really this like shift from, because it's also, the Kundalini energy is this like sexual, sensual aspect of reality. Reality is a love vibration, in sex as well. And I don't mean sex between two people, I mean like, the way that we open in that space, the way that we connect with nature, the way that, all of the like songs of reality move through our bodies, and the way that we like, like ride that current. That's also a really big part of the red serpent energy. It's like the opening of the yoni to be able to really receive and to flow. And if we can bring that frequency, because there's certain places on the planet where that energy is just there. It's like Bali. Bali is totally and utterly, in that frequency, and it's so easy for like you're in a goddess to come out, because the frequency is so like moist and connected and in love and in hum, and it's like super goddess land. But then like for me, like here in the UK, it's like so not that. It's so not that. But the more of us that can open to that through healing our stories, and it's not even just the healing of our own individual stories, and this is another piece that I'm really connecting to now. It's like, if collective reality in the space that you're in is really squashed, if you're spending the majority of your time interacting with that matrix, you are also going to be in that energy. Whereas if you can hermit, if you can retreat and access that flowing water, Kundalini, sensual experience of reality is making love to me all the time, and that's the realm that I exist within. And then when you go into that space of the collective reality that's like this, you're bringing that energy, and then you retreat back into the receiving of your connection with spirit. So it's that like, just allowing ourselves, and I think I've said this a few times because it's been my learning of late, it's like all we've got to do is maintain our own frequency. That's it. And the more that we maintain our own frequency and exist in that frequency, the more that allows things to shift and to change. But also, just for us, it allows our experience of this lifetime to be what it's meant to be. On one level, where everybody chooses to put their frequency anchor is down to them. But the more of us that put our frequency anchor into heart, into soul, into deep union with reality, the more potential there is for other people to reach that. But by coming out of our frequency, and this is a really big message of my own for now, if we come out of our own frequency to attempt to change a frequency, the only frequency that's going to change is our own. So within this wave spell, it's like the shedding. The snake also brings the shedding, but the snake also brings the wisdom. And I was like recently tuning into the Gnostic scriptures again, and I've always felt a very deep resonance with that. And the creation story within the Gnostic ideology, and this came from Rasta Leela. I don't know if I mentioned it recently, but it's that the serpent, in Adam and Eve, the story of Adam and Eve, in the Garden of Eden, they weren't actually in the Garden of Eden. They were like basically being held in this like illusionary frequency by something claiming to be God that wasn't God. But the serpent energy came into like truth. Come and take the truth, come and eat from the space of truth and see things clearly, and then from that place we can evolve the reality. So the serpent brings us the truth. It allows us to, and what happens when we meet the truth is that sometimes parts of us have got to transform. The transforming is death. For us to really go through the butterfly or the dragonfly transformation, the previous creature has to die. So giving ourselves space to recognize, like, okay, what is still playing out within my reality that's blocking me from being in Kundalini, sensual connection to the current of life? What's blocking me from operating through reality as a mirror, as a mirror river? What's blocking me from that flow? And then what do I need to let go of and change within myself to allow myself to return to living in that watery experience of reality? So yeah, it's big. It's a big time. And I know, like, for me at the moment, I mean, like, I've not even really been able to start my recovery process yet, because I'm still completing a karmic creation. And I'm so deeply grateful for all of it. But I also know that, because we are all one thing, if it's what I'm experiencing, it's also what other people are experiencing. And yeah, I think just to really kind of just send some like recognition and some love. And we didn't just come to live heaven on earth, we came to build heaven on earth, but the building is through the dismantling, and that's the dismantling of the human code that has been, and that it lies in the way of what is wanting to birth through the multidimensional human. So within the next 13 days, allow the layers to shed, allow yourself to transform. I'm sending you so many blessings for Imbolc, and yeah, just feeling that love, feeling that connection, and honoring the grief. Yesterday I esteemed, and these are the pieces of the reality that were created there, that I am sad to know is not going to be continuing in the way that it's continuing, but it's going to transform into something else. Again, more to share. But we had a conversation with the young people. One of them wanted to bring, because we create the day and everybody gets to decide what we're doing, and somebody had put as an offering that they wanted to have a conversation about the world. And when she was invited to share what she meant by that, she was saying that she doesn't feel like there's anywhere to go when she wants to talk about the issues that are happening in the world. And she mentioned, like, what the thing that she wanted to bring was like the Israel Palestine thing, and just what we were able to do within that space. You know, the young people led it and we were just kind of listening, and then from that place, you know, looking at the history, and I mean like the biblical history through to the political history, you know, through to the huge wounds on both sides of these people in terms of like terrorism and the Holocaust, and, you know, what those things have done for the collective perspective of, you know, how do I locate myself within my culture, and all of the unprocessed pain. And this is the place that we landed. It's like, fuck, like the level of unprocessed grief is phenomenal on the planet right now. And through our death processes, through our dropping into the water that is the flow but will take us through the grief, that is the greatest offering that we can give, and that is the mission. The mission of now is really to let it all be felt, to let it all be expressed, and through that expression we then create space for transformation and for flow. All right, my darlings, me and Taco through Totofutures are bringing a lot of magic, and we've got something really exciting in the pipeline that I'm going to announce probably on the next Wavespell video. But also, if you work with us, we're doing these incredible quests of, you know, we're doing a Grail coaching quest. I'll put the links below. But yeah, I can really feel just the way that all of the transformations at the moment are like alchemizing into creating some big stuff within my offerings to the world. Yeah, man, it's big shit. Mwah, I love you. Thank you for being a part of this amazing galactic community that we've created. And yeah, if you are around West Yorkshire, come see us on Saturday. And if not, it's really beautiful to share this space and this energy with you. Much love.